How to make the perfect espresso, or at least a very good one. That's what we're going to talk about today. And there are two main factors you gotta consider when making espresso. Number one, pressure, and number two, temperature. What we're going to focus mostly on today is pressure. And the reason that I'm holding this bag of beans is because beans are responsible for a lot of the pressure. They provide the resistance necessary in order for the espresso extraction to take place. So when you're looking for beans in the supermarket, you can't just go down the aisle and choose any bag of beans that looks nice. You gotta choose beans that are freshly roasted. The reason being is a lot of the beans on the supermarket shelves are going to be anywhere between 3 and 12 months old, and that's just too old and too stale. Think about it. How many chefs do you see that say, I want the oldest, most stale ingredients possible for my food? No, they don't do that. They want fresh ingredients. You need the same thing for your coffee and in particular for your espresso extraction. So I went and I found these beans right here. These were roasted in February of 2023. So I know that these are gonna provide me the necessary resistance for my extraction. On top of the beans, you're going to need a grinder that grinds fine enough for espresso and ideally has a good resolution for dialing in. Now this is the Eureka Specialita. This may be somewhat outside of some people's budgets, but Eureka does make a similar model without the soundproofing, without the display, and it's much cheaper. It's called the Manuale, the Notte, or the Facile, depending on your market, and it costs about half of what this one does. I would really recommend you guys go check that out. Alternatively, you can get yourself a hand grinder for about $100, and that's another good alternative to save you some money. Now, I'm a lazy guy, and so I choose to use the electric grinder. It's much faster and easier. All right, the third component that we need for pressure, besides having fresh beans and a good grinder, is you need decent puck preparation. So if you've got yourself a little tool for distributing your grounds, and if you got yourself a nice tamper to tamp out your coffee bed, you're good to go. Now, the second item that you need for a good espresso is ideally enough temperature and a stable temperature. So this little machine right here has got a boiler, pretty small boiler with a huge heating element. And so this does provide enough temperature to extract for a good espresso. The temperature profile, in fact, is quite similar to the Gaggia Classic Pro. Now, it's not completely stable. It does go down over time, but it holds its temperature pretty well for a machine in this price range. Now, if you want to go up from there, then invest in a machine that includes a PID, which is going to keep the temperature stable where you want it, and you can adjust the temperature for your different beans. For example, medium and light roasted beans need more temperature than do dark roasted beans. All right, let's just go ahead and do a demonstration. Now, there are a couple of tools that are always good to have when you're making espresso. One is a scale, because you need to consider your dose. So if I tear out my scale, I know that for a double basket here, I'm gonna need about 16 grams. So let's measure out 16 grams of beans. 16.3, close enough. I've got this grinder dialed in pretty well already. So let's just grind and make ourselves an extraction. All right, as I said, I've got my handy dandy little WDT tool. And what we're going to do is just distribute the grounds here. Try to push some from the middle to the outside edges too, to avoid a donut extraction. Let's give that a little tap, a little polish, and now we can tamp. So now we're ready to go. We've got our freshly roasted beans. We got a nice fine grind. We did our distribution in our tamp, and now let's do our extraction. Here we go. There we got our 2-to-1 extraction. And how does it taste? That's delightful. That's a medium roast right there. Maybe on the lighter side of medium. It's got a really nice kind of tangerine acidity to it. Almost a little bit of grapefruit in there. It's just delightful. And there you go, a very nicely extracted espresso and made at home. I hope that this video was helpful for you, and if so, please give it a like. Check out my other videos. If you like what you see, subscribe to the channel. It's totally free. Until next time, I say happy coffee drinking and happy espresso drinking.